Crafting is now in the game, space nerds, but refining is not. And a lot of folks, myself included, were hoping refining would be about removing impurities from materials. But as we found out on the crafting guide yesterday, which I have popped up here, it's not. It's actually more about combining materials. One of the devs actually commented further on this and clarified more about how refining would work in the game, how you can make more money as a refiner versus anybody else really doing anything in the game. This is completely separate gameplay. It's not about just making the collected materials better. It's about making wholly new materials. So at the bottom of the crafting guide, he says, they have these points. New systems will create alloys and composite materials. Refining will no longer convert iron ore into iron, but into iron ore primary plus carbon as a secondary. We saw this on the crafting panel when they first showed it. Primary input determines the quality of the refined material. So, I mean, obviously, you put in iron ore. The iron is the primary, so that, I mean, go in the other direction, I guess. The iron would be the primary, which would determine the quality. The carbon would be the secondary, which would determine the amount needed. This allows you to use things like creature harvestables to create new materials in a grounded and believable manner, adding unlocked blueprints required for select exotic materials. And they also mentioned this can include, like, if you need to make some kind of exotic device or gun, and you have to get a specific metal from, like, aliens for it, you could destroy an alien ship and then refine the salvage materials from them. The commenter here said, I don't understand what this means. If iron ore will be converted into iron ore plus carbon, how do I actually combine them into refined iron? Or you need to put into the refinery some iron ore plus carbon in order to have... Sorry, Mrs. Tomato just brought olives. Or you need to put into the refinery some iron ore plus carbon in order to have refined ore. I think that's what he's saying. He continues by saying, and if I put the general carbon commodity that has quality 0, I would simply need a lot of it to create refined iron, while if I put inside copion horn to get the carbon with high quality, I need less? Yeah, I don't think the copion horn needed to be included in there, but let's see what Declan says. He has his hands all over crafting, so he's got a good idea of where this is going. He said, hello, future iterations of refining will change it so that at least 2 inputs of material to produce a refined material. So using the iron example, it would be iron plus carbon to make steel. Quality, so this is kind of like it's like the satisfactory model, right? I don't know how refining works in a lot of MMOs. I assumed it would be refining is purifying materials. This is a little more interesting though. Well, it's interesting because this allows you to have more materials that can be formed in different ways. But I do think there should be a way for us to raise the quality of a material. It's weird not to, in my opinion. I see it's been mentioned in this thread already, but this is also covered with some of the old concept UI visuals in the CitizenCon presentation, Crafting Your Home. That's what we looked at yesterday. That's how we got to the conclusions we did. Or at least that's how we followed along with what they were saying. You guys remember we pulled up these examples here? So you can see here he's got a primary, a secondary, and a catalyst. And the way they described it even is kind of like he's saying here.
High quality steel, you need to put in the best iron you have in the primary slot. You can put any quality coal in the secondary slot without affecting the quality of the steel. But the quality of the coal will influence how much of it you need to produce steel. As an example, if you put in low quality coal, you might require 4 SCU of coal versus high quality coal that only requires 2 SCU.
And then he mentions the catalyst. They said that you can get third-party catalysts to add. The real thing I want to know with crafting, and they haven't talked about this yet, we're talking about materials going into all these different things, but I want to know if we're going to get little parts. You know, one of the examples of that would be like comp boards. These are harvestables that are actually listed on the star map as being findable on certain planets. So it does hint at the ability for us to find parts and things out there like sprockets, springs, maybe like a diffuser, just like things that aren't materials but still are needed to craft other parts. I like that kind of stuff. That makes it more fun to go out and find things while you're looting. He continues on by saying some optional material inputs in the refined recipes may also influence things like the refined time or quality to a certain degree. Once this change to refining occurs, crafting recipes will require steel instead of iron, as some do now. There are also advanced and exotic refined materials like Durasteel, which is used for higher tier crafted items. In this case, the example would be TBD raw resource plus steel, resulting in a chain of the most common basic materials being used to make the most advanced. Nice! Little mini satisfactory going on in there. It could be really, really interesting. I'm excited to see just how deep the gameplay around searching for things and actually using them goes. This is a good advancement for the game. But, as always, when does this actually happen? They showed us the future of crafting, but there's no timeline. And, much like item recovery, things could stay the same for quite a long time. So that's really all I had to do. I mean, we went over the future of crafting yesterday. You guys can, I didn't post that as a video, so you can find this and go over it if you'd like. We'll probably go over it in more detail at some point later after the patch has calmed down. But crafting looks like it's going to be huge, and it's going to go pretty deep, and it's going to be a big part of this game. It's just a matter of when that will all happen. But let's jump into 4.7 and see how it's doing right now, shall we? Cheers.